So if the reality that we share is one in which we have been conditioned to believe that we're this thing called the body, and to believe that we're a personality, something called the personality, and living in space and time, right, in relationship to other bodies and other personalities, right, and the world and the circumstances of the world that's happening all the time, which is threatening, right? Anything can happen, you know, tornadoes, war, you know, just if you walk out of your house, you know, you're subjecting yourself to the possibility of being killed, aren't you? Yeah, I mean, you can't afford to think that way or you'd never leave your house, and some people don't, right? But it is the truth. You walk around, you know, if somebody could lose control of their car and hit you and kill you, you know, or somebody could walk in here with, more now than ever, somebody can walk in here with a weapon and start shooting us, right? And if you look at the news almost every night, there's another incident of that, right? So the world appears to be more and more threatening, more and more scary, right? And so, given our orientation, given the conditioning that we are, our life becomes about trying to avoid the threat, right? Trying to control the threat, avoid the threat, not think about the threat, protect ourselves from the threat, you know, get security for your home, put more cameras out there, you know, get a shotgun for the house, right? So you protect yourself and try to create the circumstances that'll give you a sense of security so you can relax and you don't have to be afraid, right? So you get all that under control, right? And then you go to the doctors and the doctor tells you you have this disease, you have cancer. Well, so all of your attempts not to be afraid and control things just went out the window, right? So now you do whatever you can to control that cancer, and if you're fortunate, you know, and it doesn't kill you, right, that you get that under control, so you can relax a little bit after that, right? And then you find out that you lost your money in a business deal, or you lost your job, so your security is out the window again, and you're afraid again, threatened again. So life becomes this process of hoping and wishing, right? Hoping and wishing that the boogeyman doesn't visit. Hoping and wishing that the negative circumstances don't happen to you, right? And so your life is about this you, this me, this I, who I consider myself to be, you know, that is separate from life, separate from all the rest of humanity. And so I have to spend a lot of energy and a lot of time and a lot of thinking, figuring things out, analyzing things, you know, trying to get the right circumstances so that I can relax, so I can get some sleep, right? Can't sleep at night, right? Well, the problem with that is that the more I try, the more I do, the more I try to control it, right? The more obvious it is that I am failing. Even if you're fortunate enough to succeed in controlling the circumstances for a good portion of the time, inevitably that will fail, because as you get older, the body starts falling apart, and there's just nothing you can do about it. Death is coming, there's nothing you can do about it, right? You can't control any of that. You can't control your bowels. You can't control your body, right? So fear, right? Fear and anger are actually appropriate, natural reactions if it's true that you are the body and you're the person, is it not? Yeah, if it's true that you are the body and you're the person, then you should be afraid. That's healthy. I highly recommend that you be afraid. If it's true that you're the physical body and you're the personality, then you should be angry when somebody threatens you, somebody gets in your way, somebody, creates trouble for you. You should be angry about that. And so our life becomes about reacting, doesn't it? Life becomes about I'm afraid, or I'm angry, or I'm frustrated, or I'm stressed out, some unwanted condition, some unwanted circumstance, some unwanted emotion, some unwanted thought pattern, some unwanted physical condition, right? And if you've been around long enough, you begin to realize there's no way out of this. No matter what you do, no matter how much money you have, you can't escape the inevitable threat that life presents to you. So I say all that to say the answer is not to try and control what's happening. That's not going to work. In fact, the control that you think you have is an illusion. You have absolutely no control over what's happening. And the reason I can say that is because what the teachings tell us, what the truth is, capital T, what the truth is that who you think you are is not who you are. What you think is true is not what's true. That's why the truth is so important, because if you expose yourself to the truth, and if you practice relaxing this nervous system and calming the mind, right, and then having a deep enough and clear enough understanding about the truth, now you have something to work with, right? So as you deal with the circumstances that you're facing in your life, if you can stay calm and relaxed enough to use the understandings you've developed, then you can apply something that might actually work, might actually make a difference. So what is that when it comes to fear? What do the teachings tell us? What's the truth about fear? Well, the reality of it is we're not trying to control or change anything, right? So if we can maintain enough of a relaxed state and a calm state so we can stay present, that's the reason we're practicing these things in meditation. Practicing relaxing the body and calming the mind and paying attention so we can be present, so we can be available, so we can actually see what's happening instead of just the interpretation about it or the reaction that we're having emotionally about it. But in order to do that, the first and foremost thing you have to do is be able to stay calm enough and relaxed enough, right, not to freak out. Because once you freak out, you can't apply anything, right? You can't apply anything. You know, the law of attraction, everybody loves the law of attraction, right? And the law of attraction tells you anything that you occupy your attention with, anything that you think about consistently will manifest. It will manifest. And that's true. That's actually true. The law of attraction is true. The problem with it is, the thing that's left out is nobody can do that. Nobody. You can't pay attention long enough to watch your breath. How are you going to pay attention to making $1 million, right? So it's a pie in the sky philosophy. It's not applicable. You've got to be able to be present to apply any teaching, to apply any understanding. So that's number one. That's why meditation is so important. Because until you get to a place where you can have this system remain calm, have this system relax, until you can do that and then pay attention, you can't apply anything. You can't apply the teaching. Now, if you practice meditation and you understand that and you get rid of all these mystical ideas about it, that just by sitting there and paying attention to your breath, somehow you're going to turn into an angel or something, I don't know. That's naive. Meditation is a very practical thing. You were practicing meditation to capitalize on the possibility of being present. You're practicing meditation to capitalize on the possibility of being available to what's happening and applying the truth that the teachings tell us is reality. So when it comes to fear, okay, fear gets triggered, fear gets stimulated based on what? Based on your conditioning, just like everything else, right? Fear gets triggered, fear gets stimulated based on your conditioning, and your conditioning says you ought to be afraid because you are this body and you are this personality. But the truth tells us that's not reality, that's not actually real. Well, okay, you tell me that it's not actually real, I understand that conceptually, but I can't stop experiencing my life and the circumstances as if it is real, as if it is true. So how do I get out of this? How do I get out of this? If you can get to a place where you're relaxed and calm enough and you can pay attention consistently, right? Then when thoughts are occurring and emotions come up, you're aware of the thoughts and you're aware of the emotions, right? But as the teachings tell us, you're not being the one that's happening to anymore. That's the practice. You're not being the one that's happening to anymore because the one that you thought you were, that it was happening to, isn't real, doesn't actually exist. It gets generated in thinking. When you think about what you think about, you think that you're the thinker of what you're thinking about. That's part of the process, isn't it? I was talking to somebody about this today. Even as advanced as you may get through these practices and teachings, right? I promise you, you will still find yourself falling into being the thinker of your thoughts. If you pay attention, you'll see it. I don't care how sophisticated you are. I don't care how much you think you understand and know. In the course of your everyday life, as you're going through your patterns and your routine of your everyday life, if you stop at some point and look, you'll see, wait a minute, I'm thinking. You will be thinking you're thinking again, which means it's not easy to get out of that appearance, get out of that belief, get out of that process. Why? Why? Because you've practiced it 24/7 for years. You've practiced it. It's your default state. It's who you are unless you interrupt it, right? So what we're talking about here is interrupting that by practicing paying attention and learning that you have to pay attention in such a way where you can see when your thought process and your emotions are running the show. That's called crazy. When your emotions and your thoughts are running the show, when they're causing your behavior, that's crazy. That's craziness, right? Now, we don't like to look at that because all of us suffer from this type of insanity, right? And then the thing that complicates it is that after you behave in a crazy way, then you feel bad about it. You feel guilty about it. You feel like you're not good enough. You feel like you're incapable and so forth. And that just stirs up more insecurity and more of an attempt to try and figure out how to get more control, right? How to change things to make things less threatening than they were, and so forth and so on. So what is the practice then? The practice is if I can practice relaxing the body and calming my mind and pay attention, what will I do with that? How will I apply that when the shit hits the fan? How will I apply that when the circumstances threaten me and trigger me and have me go into a fear reaction, right? And what happens when you're afraid? You try and control what you're afraid of, you try and get away from it, or you try and fight with it to get in control, right? So, in the practice of the truth, if you're relaxed enough and calm enough and you're paying attention, when fear comes up, you do nothing. You do nothing. Because the fear is a reaction that's running from a conditioned program that's not true. So you do nothing. You're aware of the fear running, right? But the difference is, I am not afraid, I am aware of fear. That's a different life. That's a different life. When they asked Nisargadatta when he was dying whether he was in pain, he said, there is pain. Now, if you understand the teachings, you understand that what he's saying is, I am not in pain. I am the awareness of pain. There is pain, but I am not the pain. I am not suffering. This is the practice. The practice is when fear or anger arises, right? Can you be present enough? Can you be available enough, right? To recognize I am the awareness of the fear. I am not afraid. See, once you're afraid, you're being the fear. There is no way out of it. Once you're being the emotion, there is no space, there is no distance from it to deal with it. Yeah? Same thing with personality. When you're being the personality, right? When you're being the personality, you can't manage it, you can't deal with it because you are it. But when you understand the personality isn't real, it's not actual, right? It doesn't exist. It's a program that's running in your brain, right? When you understand that, then you can stop being the personality and watch the personality. You know, this book that I recommended to you, what's it called? Watching Your Life. Yeah? It's a book about meditation, but the thing that he emphasizes is in the book that the experience of meditation that is the most valuable experience of meditation is not when you're sitting in formal meditation. No, it's when you're in the middle of your life and you get access to the experience of watching what's happening instead of being the character that it's happening to. That's the application of the truth. Watching the movie instead of being in the movie, right? If you're in the movies and sitting in the dark and watching the movie, the whole idea of it being entertainment is that you intentionally want to forget that you're there watching the movie and identify with the movie, and then it's exciting because when it's scary, you're afraid. When it's sad, you're sad. You know, when it's happy, you're happy, right? So you're identifying with the movie, right? So the application of meditation in the truth is the opposite. You're disidentifying with the movie. You're maintaining a relaxed state, an aware state, and paying attention in such a way where you know the movie is a movie. It's not my life. You see the difference? That's called being awake. That's called being awake. And practicing that means that you're watching, you're paying attention in a relaxed, calm way, and you're watching the programming that's playing in your head keep attempting to determine your life. You're watching it keep attempting to determine what comes out of your mouth, to keep watching it keep attempting to determine what actions you take. And when it determines what comes out of your mouth and what actions you take, it's very important to pay attention. It doesn't work. It doesn't work because you're being something that doesn't exist. And you're relating to the world in a way that's an appearance. It's an appearance. It's not what's really happening. Right? So all of this stuff can become esoteric. You know, these things can become very complicated philosophical notions, right? But the practice of meditation and the practice of the truth is intended to be very direct, very simple, very user-friendly, right? But you have to wade into it the way you would wade into a pool. You know, you have to get wet a little bit at a time. If you try and jump all the way into the deep end, you'll be overwhelmed. It won't make any sense to you. Right? But if you start practicing meditation a little bit at a time and start coming into the realization of the condition you're in, because the condition you're in is you are stressed out. Your body is stressed out. Your mind is stressed out. That's why when they teach meditation as a stress reduction project, right? Mindfulness-based stress reduction, right? All of the focus is on learning to relax the body and calm the mind. The reason that they teach it that way and they don't go into the teachings of the truth and so forth and so on, because if you can relax the body sufficiently and calm the mind, that will go a long way in allowing you to be present. And if you're present, you'll see things as they actually are, and that in itself will have you be different in the way that you're managing your life. So does that give you some access? Yes. That's part of this. You know, there's what we're talking about is what will give you access. You know, what will give you access to your behavior? What will give you access to what's coming out of your mouth? What will give you access to the way you're experiencing your life? That's what this is about, getting access to the reality, getting access to the truth. Why? Because if you get access to the truth and to reality, you will find that that's where happiness is. That's where peace of mind is. That's where there is no stress. That's where you can go with the flow. That's where you can relax, right? It's a whole reality that's available to be discovered. But you can't discover it if you stay in your head about it. You can't discover it if you only try and think about it. No. You have to relax yourself and actually see it. You know, it's like this whole business of your true identity. You know, you can hear the teachings about your true identity. You can hear the teachings about the idea that your personality is a learned reality. It's a conditioned reality. You can understand that. It'll make sense to you, right? But it won't make any difference. It won't make any difference. Because until you can take the conceptual understanding and have a direct experience of that, actually experience being a personality and watching yourself fail and suffer, actually experience yourself not being a personality and experience yourself being relaxed and happy and at peace, that's something that'll make a difference. That'll motivate you to continue to deepen your understanding and to continue to deepen your ability to relax the physical body. I can't emphasize enough how important this relaxing the body and calming the mind is. And I can't emphasize how the reason it wouldn't seem to be as important as it is because we're unaware of the condition. We're unaware of the condition. If you went to a good shiatsu masseuse and got a good shiatsu masseuse, you know, somebody really knows what they're doing. If you got up from the table, after that, you would know the condition your body was in when you're under stress, right? I got a good shiatsu massage one time. I got up from the table. I thought I was going to float. I didn't think I could stay on the ground, right? So the tension in the body, the contraction in the physical body, right, is more than you can imagine. More than you can imagine. And that's why it takes time and it takes patience. It takes being aware of the body. This is why in mindfulness-based stress reduction, they emphasize body scanning. It's actually a form of meditation. Vipassana meditation is body scanning, just body scanning, right? becoming aware of the sensations in the body. Why? Because the sensations in the body are the nervous system in the body which is conditioned and reacting to situations. That's what's going on. So if you pay attention to the sensations in the body that are sensations that are coming from conditioning and the reactions that are happening in your nervous system, right? And you practice being aware of that, you practice being relaxed, and you practice paying attention to that, and then you practice being equanimous. You practice paying attention to that, and then you practice having an even-keeled awareness of it. That's what equanimity is, an even-keeled awareness of it, right? So that you can have a stable, grounded way of being that is associated with reality, it's associated with the truth, instead of associated with your conditioning. So this is not a process that is meant for the people who can't deal with the necessity of diligence and patience and commitment and conviction. That's what it takes. That's why the practice of meditation itself is something that most people fail at. Most people fail at it because they can't maintain a consistency unless they're getting paid, right? If it doesn't work fast enough, it must not work. That's the attitude that the personality has. And that's part of our conditioning, right? Because we're conditioned to expect things to happen fast, like Amazon, right? We're conditioned to have things happen fast. We don't like the idea of having to wait for something. We want it to happen sooner versus later. And we've been conditioned to be worse that way than ever before because of modern pharmacology and chemistry, right? That you can take a psychedelic and you don't have to worry about suffering anymore. You're in an altered state. You're in an altered state where you're having a good time. You're hallucinating. Your nervous system is jacked up. Your filtering system that has your conditioning called suffering gets pushed down, right? And so you're having this exciting direct experience of reality, right? The problem is that what goes up must come down. This is a mistake that a lot of people make. They think that when they're experiencing psychedelics, this is a very popular treatment these days. It's approved by the FDA. Psychedelics are approved by the FDA, so it's a very popular treatment these days. And then they come up with this misunderstanding that that's what it would be like to be enlightened. That's what it would be like to be awake. That's what the possibility is. And so now I'm working to get that, I want to try and work to get that to be happening all the time. That'll never happen. Just remember, whatever goes up comes down. Everything that happens in the world of impermanence is constantly changing. So you can never be stable with any experience that occurs there, right? So you may experience this high state, you may experience this unfiltered reality, this clear state of mind, this clear vision, but then you have to come back down to ground level again, back in your ordinary condition reality, and find yourself reacting the same way as you always did. So that experience can turn into a worse mental condition where now you're depressed because you can't get it back. This is also the case of people, not only with psychedelics, but the case of people that do a lot of intense practicing. Like Paul Hederman said that he went to one of these in the East. I think he said it was in Thailand or somewhere over there. You can go and do these intensive retreats in complete darkness, silence and complete darkness, right, for a month, right? He said he went and he did that, right? People do these things all the time. He did that for a month. And by 30 days, he was in a very intense altered state. After 30 days of that, very intense altered state. He said he was really experiencing what it was like to be out of his body and experience freedom and all the rest of it, right? And he said when he left that retreat and took a cab to the airport, by the time he got to the airport, the whole thing was gone. He was back in his personality. And that's what will happen to anybody that goes through those kinds of things, right? But he learned the lesson from that. He realized that's not the answer. That is not the answer. The answer is in your ordinary state, the one you go to spend, the one that you spend most of your time in that state. Can you transform that experience? Can you transcend that experience? That'll make a difference. And then you don't have to get high. You don't have to go away from it, right? Because it's acceptable. It's something that you can experience and enjoy. That's why the material, the material that we use, the conditions that we use to do the practices and to apply the truth is your everyday, ordinary experience. That's where you're looking at it. That's where you want to pay attention. That's where you want to be relaxed. That's where you want to be calm. That's where you want to apply the possibility that you're learning about. What's that possibility? To learn to witness instead of get involved. To learn to be the witness. The awareness that is the reality of what we are is a witness. It's not involved. Look at it. I mean, if you can get a sense of your awareness, if you can get a sense of your awareness, right? And you can get a sense of your awareness. You must be able to get a sense of your awareness because you are your awareness. How could you not get a sense of it? If you get a sense of your awareness, you'll see that awareness just is. It's called isness. It's just is. It's not involved. It doesn't consider itself to be a body. It's not a personality. It's not trying to do anything. It's not going anywhere. It's not coming from anywhere. It's just here. It's just present. And the experience of being that awareness that's just here and just present and not involved is fulfilling. That's what you want. That's what everybody's trying to get to. And the irony is, and the interesting thing is, what everybody's trying to get to is a place that they have always been at. What everybody's trying to get to, the natural state, is a state that everybody's always in all the time. I like that concept, a natural state, right? Anything that's natural means that it hasn't been manipulated, it hasn't been changed into something else, right? It's natural. You know, if you get natural orange juice, right? If you get natural anything, there's no extra ingredients in it, right? Hasn't been modified. It's in its natural state. Well, that's the state that meditation and these practices are aiming at, to give you access to the natural state. Give you access to the way you already are in your natural state. And what you already are in your natural state is the awareness itself. The awareness itself. And if you practice this, and if you deepen your understandings about this, the proof will be in the pudding. The proof will be in the fact, and there are some of you in this room right now that already know this, even if it's only in a limited respect. It's enough to give you a taste of the truth, right? That if you practice this and you understand it and you have a deep enough teaching, you know what the teachings are telling you and you apply them, right? You will start to experience what it's like to be in the natural state. What do I mean by that? Circumstances will happen, right? And when they happen, they will trigger reactions, right? They will trigger emotions, they will trigger thought patterns, right? And so forth, right? But in the natural state, you're simply a witness to all of that. You're not identified with it. You're not identified with it. You don't consider yourself to be the thinker of the thoughts. You consider yourself to be the witness of the thoughts. You don't consider yourself to be the physical body. You consider yourself to be the awareness of the physical body. You don't consider the world to be a real world out there that's separate from you. You consider it to be an appearance that's occurring. And non-duality, the teaching of non-duality tells us the most important thing you can learn about the truth is that you and the world are not separate. You are not separate from life. You and life are the same thing. You and life are the same thing. This gets farther into the teachings where they talk about the fact that there's no such thing as the doer, right? If you understand the teachings, you come to that understanding and that realization yourself. How can there be a doer when there is no person? If you can get clear that there is no person and that's just a program running in your head, then obviously there is no person for anything to happen to, and there is no person to do anything. There's no doer. Now, that can be confusing, right? Because your orientation has been so much that that's the case, right? That just plays, it just plays, right? So you have to actively and intentionally use the conviction and the understanding of the truth to see past that and to understand that there is no doer. What's happening is the universe expressing itself through you. That's what's happening. The universe is expressing, and there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can change about it. This is the truth. Look, if you see this, this is what will help you give up. This will help you surrender. There's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can change about it. The only possibility is to experience it. The only possibility is to witness it. That's the only possibility. And if you can get to that understanding clear enough, and if you can get access to that way of being, you start to experience freedom. You start to experience freedom. Because no matter what happens, even if when it happens, it captures you. Even when it happens, it triggers you and you get sucked into it, right? And you're in the middle of your reaction to it, in the middle of your feelings and thoughts about it, right? If you've been practicing and studying this, even if that happens, and some of you here have already witnessed this, even if that happens, it'll play for a while and then you'll go, oh, I bought it. It'll play for a while and then you'll wake up. You'll realize, oh, wow, I was believing what I was thinking. I was believing how I was feeling, and that made me say what I said and do what I did, and that certainly didn't work. But if I woke up and saw that and realized that that's what happened, right, then I'm on my way to freedom. You're on your way to freedom. And when you realize that, when you see that happening, it really stimulates and encourages you and inspires you and motivates you, right, to get more of that, right? To have that be the case more often than not, right? And you want to take this very seriously, because the setup of life is that if you don't get your shit together and it gets later in life, you're going to suffer more. You're going to suffer more because you'll have less control. You don't never have any control, but it'll seem like you have less control than you ever had. When the body starts to fall apart, you start to get the diagnosis, right? That can be very frustrating, right? There's enough of you here that are old enough to know what I'm talking about, right? That can be very frustrating because one of the chief areas of identity is with the body, right? So when the body starts to fail, or when the body gets cancer, or when the body gets a heart condition, or when the body gets old, right? You take that seriously. That seriously, you know, that ruins a lot of people's lives, doesn't it? Ruins a lot of people's lives. Hey, the human body changes, I don't know if you know this, but your physical body changes 100% every 7 years. It's a different body every 7 years. If the body can do that, then obviously the body can fix whatever goes on with the body that's wrong, if you can get out of its way. So one of the challenges that you want to consider here is that if you wake up and you see things as they are, and you're able to relax yourself and calm your mind and apply these teachings, right? Anything is possible. Anything is possible. One of my favorite teachers, Ramesh Balsekar, says, in the end, all there is consciousness. All there is consciousness, and the consciousness that is all there is can manifest itself in any possible way. So that eliminates all the things that we think are, can't happen, things that have to happen a certain way. No, there's nothing that has to happen anyway. Everything is possible. Everything is possible.